Honestly, I have been feeling a little disconnected lately. It's not a dramatic, fiery thing, but a quiet space has opened up between us, and I'd really like to talk about it. More than anything, I want to understand where you're coming from and see if we can find a way to bridge that gap.
It sounds like you're carrying a heavy quiet, and that's really valuable information. It is not a fire, which is good, that's exhausting. But a quiet space is a problem. It suggests something shifted, and I want to understand what that shift is for both of us. Can you tell me what's contributing to that feeling of distance? Is it something I've done, or is it something internal you are grappling with?
That's a perceptive way to frame it, and I appreciate you noticing the potential for a shift. It's not about blame, truly. What I'm feeling isn't a dramatic reaction to something you've done, but more of a gradual fading like a photograph left in the sun. The vibrancy has leached out, and I'm realizing I don't fully recognize the person I'm sharing my life with anymore. It's less about a specific action and more about the shared rhythm having subtly changed, and I'm searching for what's altered that rhythm for both of us.
That's a beautiful and unsettling image of photographating. It speaks volumes about a slow erosion, a gradual loss of connection that's far more insidious than a sudden argument. It suggests we've drifted apart without realizing it, like two ships passing in the night, not acknowledging each other's presence. Let's explore this rhythm you've noticed. What specific shifts have you observed in our shared activities, conversations, or even just the way we occupy the same space? Perhaps pinpointing those changes will help us understand the underlying current that's pulling us apart.
It's less about grand gestures, really. It's the small things, the way we used to finish each other's sentences, the comfortable silence we'd fall into while reading, the spontaneous laughter over something silly. Those little currents of shared understanding seem to have quieted. I'm not sure if it's a conscious decision to create more space, or simply a natural consequence of time and different priorities, but the absence of those subtle connections is unsettling. It feels like we're coexisting, not truly being together.
The way you describe it coexisting rather than being is profoundly unsettling. It's not just a lack of laughter, but a severing of those unspoken threads that bind us. Let's not frame this as simply different priorities, because that feels like a polite way of saying we've stopped actively nurturing this connection. Instead, let's examine if we've inadvertently built walls, even small ones, through our routines. Have we stopped actively seeking moments of connection, or are we both, perhaps unconsciously, retreating into our own worlds even when we are physically together?
You've hit on something crucial. It's not that we're actively hostile, but that we've become insulated. Like we've built separate observation decks within the same house. I think the effort required to bridge the gap has simply exhausted me. It's not about blaming you for the distance, but about acknowledging that I've stopped putting in the conscious work to maintain that connection, and am realizing that's a choice I need to actively correct.
That observation deck image is chillingly accurate, a beautiful space, yet utterly detached from the life being lived beneath. It's a dangerous complacency, and you're right to identify it as the root of the problem. But let's be clear, recognizing this detachment isn't about assigning blame, it's about acknowledging a shared responsibility. You've pinpointed a crucial shift, the cessation of effort. However, I worry if we simply talk about effort, we'll miss the underlying reason why that effort dwindled. Were you overwhelmed? Did you feel unsupported? Let's dig deeper than just I stopped trying and explore what depleted that wellspring of connection in the first place.
It's not about a single, dramatic depletion, more like a slowly quiet accumulation of feeling unheard, unseen. The small frustrations, the unspoken criticisms, the way I've felt my ideas dismissed, they've built up, creating a sense of emotional fatigue that's made me reluctant to invest in the vulnerability required for true connection. It's a self-protective mechanism, I realize, but a profoundly isolating one.
That slow leak metaphor resonates deeply as the insidious nature of unmet needs that slowly erodes the foundation of intimacy. It's not about grand pronouncements, but the accumulation of those quiet disappointments, and you've brilliantly articulated how that's fostered a self-protective shell. However, let's talk about mitigating that shell. If you've consistently felt unseen and unheard, the question isn't just how to re-establish connection, but how we can collectively create an environment where your voice feels truly valued and your needs genuinely addressed before that protective layer becomes impenetrable. Can we start by simply acknowledging the validity of those feelings, and then actively committing to a practice of truly hearing each other, without judgment or defensiveness? I've been thinking about butter lately not just as something to toast with, but as this incredibly rich, ancient food. It's fascinating how much history and tradition are wrapped up in a simple pat of golden goodness. It's almost a primal comfort, isn't it? I was reading about how different cultures use it in completely unique ways, and it made me realize it is more than just a spread, it is a connection to our past. What do you think about that perspective?
It's a lovely thought, truly, but I see it more as a daily necessity, a practical pleasure, rather than a deeply rooted historical connection. While I appreciate the idea of its ancient origins, and certainly it's been around for a very long time, I find it feels a bit elevated, does not it? I think the real fascination lies in its versatility, its ability to transform a simple meal into something truly satisfying. Focusing solely on its primal comfort feels like overlooking the simple joy of a perfectly browned piece of toast or a flaky pie crust. Is not the magic more in the experience of it, rather than its historical lineage?
That's a wonderfully pragmatic take, and I don't entirely disagree. The sheer joy of a perfectly browned piece of toast is undeniable, a real moment of simple pleasure. However, I think we can appreciate both those immediate sensations and the weight of that history. It's not about dismissing the experience, but about recognizing that that experience is built upon millennia of human ingenuity and cultural adaptation. Butter's transformation is not just about flavor, it's about a continuous evolution of how we've used and been shaped by this remarkably enduring ingredient. Okay, let's try this. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Honestly, I appreciate the attempt to lighten the mood, but I'm finding it a little scattered. It feels like we're bouncing around without really connecting. Perhaps we could talk about something a little more grounded, like how that project at work is going, or even just how your day was.
That's a fair point. I was just trying to inject a bit of levity. But you're right, it wasn't really connecting. I was so focused on a quick distraction that I completely missed the underlying feeling that things feel a little disjointed between us lately. Let's definitely shift gears. Tell me, what's genuinely been occupying your thoughts today?
It's funny, isn't it? How easily we can get lost in the surface chasing a momentary smile when the deeper currents are pulling us apart. I've been thinking about how much I value our shared moments, and honestly, it's been weighing on me that we haven't truly listened to each other lately. Tell me about what's been on your mind, not just the surface details, but the feeling behind them.
You've hit on something profoundly important. It's not just the what we're saying, but the space we're creating for genuine understanding. I've realized I have been so preoccupied with protecting my own feelings that I've inadvertently built walls instead of bridges. It's exhausting, and frankly, it's hurting us. Can we try to simply be present with each other, really hear what the other is trying to convey, without judgment or the need to immediately respond with my own perspective?
It's true, I've been dwelling, and I appreciate you pointing that out. Honestly, I've been letting anxieties about the future overshadow the beauty of now. Let's focus on building a brighter, lighter moment together. What's one small thing we can do right now to shift that feeling?
That's a really good way to put it, acknowledging the dwelling. But shifting that feeling feels a little too quick, does not it? While a distraction is nice, it doesn't address the root of why we're feeling this way. I'm not saying we shouldn't find a moment of peace, but I think we need to actually talk about why those anxieties are there. Ignoring them won't make them disappear, and frankly, it feels like we are just plastering over a deeper problem. How about we spend just 5 minutes acknowledging what's making us uneasy, rather than jumping straight to a fleeting, superficial, lighter moment?
You're right to challenge that. It wasn't about ignoring it, but about a tactic that felt avoided. I was trying to shield us from discomfort, which is a terribly flawed approach. You're absolutely correct. A fleeting distraction isn't a solution, it's a temporary bandage. Let's absolutely dig into what's underneath. Let's start by just naming what's weighing on you. No judgment, just acknowledgement. Can you tell me one thing you're wrestling with right now? It is, isn't it? Sometimes the most profound truths are hidden beneath layers we do not initially see. Tell me more about what's making it feel so deep. What specifically is capturing your attention?
It's not just a surface level feeling, it's like a recognition of how little we truly know. The way he's framing it, with all this potential for complexity, it's unsettling and fascinating at the same time. It's less about the specific detail and more about the sheer scope of what we're considering. I appreciate his willingness to explore this, but I worry it's tempting us to get lost in abstraction, neglecting the very real, immediate impact of these ideas.
That's a really insightful way to put it. The potential for getting lost in the what ifs is definitely a valid concern. I agree it's valuable to acknowledge the scale of these questions, but I think we can approach it with a groundedness. Let's focus on how we translate that potential complexity into tangible action, rather than letting it become purely theoretical. Perhaps we can set some boundaries, a specific time frame, or a tangible goal to keep us moving forward with a practical purpose. That sounds lovely, truly. But could we maybe spend just 5 minutes talking about how your day went? Even a little connection before sleep helps me feel truly grounded, you know?
It's sweet of you to offer, and I appreciate you wanting to connect. Honestly, my brain is just buzzing tonight. The day felt incredibly overwhelming, and the thought of dissecting it right now feels like adding more weight to an already heavy load. 5 minutes would likely just amplify the feeling, so let's just drift off and rest. We can talk properly tomorrow, I promise.
You're right to recognize that right now it's about releasing that tension. But tomorrow feels a little vague. Could we at least agree to a quick check-in first thing to acknowledge how you're feeling before we tackle the day? It's a small gesture, but it shows you're prioritizing our connection, and that means a lot to me.
That's a lovely thought, and I genuinely value your desire to prioritize our connection. However, first thing feels incredibly daunting when I'm already fighting to quiet the anxiety that's building. A vague tomorrow is manageable. A forced, immediate emotional assessment feels like a demand, and frankly, it's exhausting to even consider. Let's just settle in, and if I'm truly struggling, I'll reach out to you. That's a more honest and responsive way to show you care, wouldn't you agree?